Every election season, we see the headlines, candidate A or B is in the lead, or these races are tightening. But how do pollsters actually know that? It's not like they're calling every Texan and asking who they're voting for, right? Well, in this week's Texas No Filter, we're at Palmieri Coffee in Plano, and we are going to talk about how these polls work. First thing to know, political polls typically survey a small group of people. Sometimes it's 100, sometimes it's 1,000. And political polls, it's less about how many people are surveyed and more about who gets surveyed. Pollsters try to build a sample that reflects the actual voting population based on things like age, race, geography, and voting history. And that's why polls really aren't predictions. They are a snapshot of where voters stand in time. And that could change at any moment if there is a debate, a big endorsement, a scandal, a viral video, and certainly voter turnout will shift a race. So when you see a poll online, don't think of it as a prediction. Think of it more like a weather forecast. Useful? Yes. Always perfect? No. And one thing doesn't necessarily translate to the next. Just because it's raining in Dallas doesn't mean it's going to rain in Fort Worth. These polls you see online, they aren't election results. They are simply political temperature checks. Until next time, stay civil and stay caffeinated. Okay, answer me this. How often are we seeing Texas lawmakers agree on something? And not just for show, I mean, it is an issue that they are actually pushing for. Because right now, Republicans and Democrats are both talking about slicing your gas bill, specifically the Texas gas tax. Right now, it's about 20 cents per gallon, and there is a push to temporarily suspend it. In this week's Texas No Filter, we're at Fort Worth Coffee Co. in Fort Worth, describing the slow drip pace this may take to be successful. Let's start with our key players. We've got Democrats like Gina Hinojosa, who's running for governor, and James Tellerico, who's running for U.S. Senate, who say, let's give Texans relief at the pump. And then you've got Republicans like Texas Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller, who says, yeah, that is a great idea. The idea is to slice the gas tax, save some cash. I mean, if you fill up a 15-gallon tank, you're saving about $3. I mean, think about it. $3. It sounds easy enough, so why not just do it, right? Well, the gas tax can't just disappear. This is the money that funds our roads and highways in Texas. No gas tax equals less money for infrastructure. If this were to happen, lawmakers would have to either pull money from somewhere else or delay projects that you and I are pretty frustrated about. I-35, anyone? And then there's the question of whether gas stations would even pass the savings on to you, to us, the customers. So yeah, we've got a pretty rare moment of bipartisanship happening in Texas, and it's great to see. But is this real relief or just faux relief? Yeah, welcome to Texas politics, where even when everyone agrees, it's still pretty complicated. Until next time, stay civil and stay caffeinated. Governor Greg Abbott is turning up the pressure on Texas's biggest cities, and this time it's all about money. His office is warning Houston, Austin, Dallas, you need to change your immigration enforcement policies or lose state funding. In this week's Texas No Filter, we're at El Portón in Dallas, and we're gonna have a coffee chat about what this fight is all about. At the center of this is Texas's Senate Bill 4, which requires local cooperation with federal immigration authorities. The issue is that these cities have rules that tell police not to hold someone longer during a traffic stop in order to help immigration enforcement. Abbott says this violates SB 4. These cities say, not so fast. The cities argue they are following the law, that officers can cooperate with ICE, they just won't extend stops strictly for immigration purposes. But here's where things get real. Governor Abbott says he will strip millions of dollars worth in public safety grants if these cities don't change their stance by today. Houston is at risk for losing roughly $110 million. Austin, $2.5 million. And then the city of Dallas, $30 million, plus an additional $55 million to go toward World Cup safety. So the governor's message is get in line with state law or lose the money. The city's response, we are in line, and the state is pushing too far. So now the question becomes, is this enforcing the law or redefining it? We wouldn't be surprised to see this very question at the center of a legal battle. Until next time, stay civil and stay caffeinated. A little over 2 weeks ago, hemp retailers and manufacturers were told there is loads of product you're gonna have to take off your shelves. Oh, and your licensing and registration fees are gonna go up, like really high. And in this week's Texas No Filter, we are at Grounds and Gold in Arlington, and we are going to break down a very expected update from an episode we brought you last month. A Travis County judge has temporarily blocked a statewide ban on smokable hemp products, talking flower and pre-rolls, through April 23rd. You'll remember the state recently tightened its rules. If a hemp product has more than 0.3% of THC or THCA, the old loophole to the rule, it cannot be sold. But for the next 7 days, it can. Industry groups and Texas businesses say the new rules would shut them down. They argue the state is overstepping, changing the playbook years after legalizing hemp. State leaders, on the other hand, have pushed for stronger limits, saying it's about public health and keeping products away from kids. And this back and forth with hemp and THC, it is nothing new. Back in 2021, the state tried to ban Delta-8 THC. The industry sued, and the Texas Supreme Court is expected to consider the case later this year. So because of this temporary restraining order, hemp retailers and manufacturers can keep a lot of their product on store shelves. But with lawmakers watching closely and court dates approaching, this is far from settled, and we will definitely be keeping a close eye. Until next time, stay civil and stay caffeinated. All that election buzz back in March, well, it's not over. In fact, it continues in 4 days. We are not done picking our November midterm candidates. So in this week's Texas No Filter, we're at Cedric's Coffee Shop in Oak Cliff, pouring over what you need to know about the runoff election. Let's start with a timeline. First is April 27th. That was the last day to register to vote. You can check your registration status here. Make sure to take a picture of it, a screenshot, a mental note. Amazing. Next up is Friday, May 15th. That is the last day to vote by mail. And after that is Monday, May 18th. That is the start of early voting. It ends on Friday, May 22nd. Now, we highly recommend voting early to avoid, well, everything you see here. If you don't vote next week, the only other day you can is on Election Day. That is Tuesday, May 26th, and polls will be open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Republicans will have to choose candidates in these races. U.S. Senate, it's John Cornyn versus Ken Paxton. Attorney General, Mays Middleton versus Chip Roy. And Railroad Commission, Jim Wright versus Beau French. Democrats will have a few races to vote in too, like Lieutenant Governor, it's Vicki Goodwin versus Marcos Velez. Attorney General, Nathan Johnson versus Joe Jaworski. And these are just some of the races that are on the ballot. We also have races for Congress, Texas House, and State Board of Education. Now remember, whoever advances in the runoff election will go off to be on the ballot in the November midterm. And whoever wins in the November midterm, they're gonna go off to help shape policy in Texas, things that affect our everyday life, education, healthcare, immigration, and more. So the bottom line here is that election season in Texas is still very much alive. Make sure to get to the ballot box. And until next time, stay civil and stay caffeinated.